been a while since I've taken a look at the Rippaverse. So let's see what's going on with that. Eric July's Rippaverse continues to be an overwhelming success. His Isom #1 campaign is over $3.3 million and rising. 38,000 over 38,000 total purchasers, and considering his campaign goal was only $100,000, he's blown past that. He blew past that in like 2 days. Well, blew past that in 1 day. That's to tell you how amazing it is. Over $3 million and still 52 more days to go in this campaign. There's still a lot of stuff available. The Isom #1 cover C comic book is still available. Rippaverse hat, all the posters, the t-shirts, everything, the trading cards, all of these are still available. You understand me? But it's going fast. People are buying, people are interested. They like what they're seeing, like what's being shown. A few days ago, Eric July did a video showing that the first batch of comics have arrived, along with all the posters and all sort of stuff. He showed them, they're there. Now we just have them packaged, boarded, packaged, and everything, and to send out. People are anticipating it. They're really happy. They really want to get their hands on this comic. Now, one thing I covered in a video I did is that a lot of these so-called mainstream, or should I say access media type sites are not covering the success of the Rippaverse. CBR, you don't see anything about it there. Bleeding Cool, same thing. Bleeding Cool only decided to do some article, but they pretty much tried to trash Eric July's Isom #1, and now people are calling them out, right? It's an article from Bounding into Comics. Controversial comic news website Bleeding Cool under massive fire for failing to cover Eric July's overwhelmingly successful Rippaverse campaign. I mean, when you make over $3 million in less than 2 weeks from a campaign that you've started at comics, that should be that biggest news in comic books to date. That should have been covered by everybody, but it wasn't. Let's go on. Bleeding Cool is at the center of controversy again, this time for their failure in coverage of the largest crowdfund. Well, okay, that's incorrect. It's not a crowdfund. It's not a crowdfund at all. It's not a crowdfund. It's a pre-order campaign, not a crowdfund. Because in order for it to be a crowdfund, you'd have to pay him for him to then produce something. He's already done that, already put his own money where his mouth is and done that. It's not a crowdfund. Of all time in Eric July's Isom #1, Ripper has, as of this writing, raised more than 3.3 million at this point in time. Fans and professionals are reacting, wondering if there might be political and racial bias in the reporting by the salacious comic news website. Most likely, yeah. The one-piece Bleeding Cool published on the Rippaverse includes a passive-aggressive jab at the African-American creator, questioning its price point for a 96-page comic book by comparing it to direct market retail issues rather than other similar crowdfunded books. The author also made comments questioning Ripper's ethics in the article. It was a horrible article. I thought, well, this nonsense, really. Man made a bleeding fool of himself, that's all. As a comic-centric website, readers are wondering why Bleeding Cool isn't giving the Rippaverse coverage on Isom #1 like it does other comics from the mainstream. Yeah, because when Superman's son started kissing boys, that was big news. When they decided to turn Tim Drake gay, they said by show decided to turn him gay, that was big news. You understand me? All these things are big news. They decide to change. DC decided to change their Dark Crisis to Dark Crisis or Infinite Earth. That is big news. You understand me? That's big news. You put out a couple hundred Spider people, and all of them gay. That's big news. But somebody done something like this, that should be covered, should be celebrated. No, no, we want no part of that because it doesn't subscribe to what we're doing. For other titles, Bleeding Cool entire either routinely posts preview images, summaries of the plot points, or covers the milestones of sales that those companies have reached. With more than 30,000 backers, Isom #1 is posting higher sales than many Marvel or DC comics attain in the stores. A newsworthy achievement, many will agree. Yeah, it is. It seems like the Rippaverse should be the biggest story on sites like Bleeding Cool. Of course, and it is few and far between we see independent books soaring to such heights in sales. Isom #1 is posting numbers we don't see outside of The Walking Dead or Spawn when it comes to books other than those the big two publish. Richard Johnson, the purveyor of Bleeding Cool, I don't mean a bleeding fool of himself, seems more worried about making fun of Republicans than covering comic book news. Yeah, what an idiot. So how will Fox react to the confirmation from DC Comics that Lex Luthor is a Republican? Like, anybody supposed to give a damn about that? Somebody then put up and said, how will Bleeding Cool react to Eric July making $1 million in a day on his self-platformed comic? Dan Frager did that, which is another book that has so many sales in crowdfunding it could have been massively covered by comic news outlets mocking Johnson, the original comment. Yeah, they don't cover these things. It's not in there with them. You understand me? And continue on with all of this now. What kind of nonsense he puts out? Like this is the man responsible for Bleeding Cool. If he said he was a Democrat, I would have written a very similar article. And all kind of answer about inclusivity. Why aren't you celebrating the amazing achievement in comics? Yeah, and this is what he perceived. He said he was a Democrat. I would have written a very similar article. Rich Johnson, trying to that's why we're going to attack line up. You know what? I'm not going through all of this nonsense. I just want to get to the points here. It seems clear Johnson doesn't want to cover Eric July's Rippaverse in a positive light by his excuses he's making to comic readers about his lack of coverage. Many comic readers have piled on in the conversation accusing Johnson and Bleeding Cool of political bias and racism. I wouldn't put it past them to do that. Rippaverse creator Eric July had actually addressed the situation a few days prior to Johnson's meltdown, writing Bleeding Cool article attempts to passively aggressively clung on Rippaverse Isom #1 campaign. We always knew that these disingenuous people would be trying anything they could to take shots or delegitimize what we're building. They can't stop us. Damn right. Whether Bleeding Cool will listen to the fans and adjust their coverage to more fairly represent the comic industry as a whole, including books made by conservative and libertarian creators, remains to be seen. Do you think the comic industry is fair in their coverage of Eric July's overwhelmingly successful Rippaverse Isom #1 campaign? No, they're not. No, they are not. Ever since Eric July put out this his Rippaverse campaign has become so successful, none of these so-called access media sites will touch it, because as far as they are concerned, Eric July and Rippaverse and everything it stands for is some sort of pariah to them. They want to push a bunch of ideology that nobody is interested in, nobody asked them for, and they don't bloody care. They act like you're supposed to love all this woke garbage that is being done, and if you don't, you're an enemy. But what is really shocking is that you have so-called black creators also attacking Eric July. Because why? They have relegated themselves to the fact that, they must stay in their place. That's what they have done. They must stay in their place and never venture out of there into anything. And as long as they stay there, these so-called shield sites are perfectly happy to never cover them. But Eric July wants to make comics for everybody, which is what comics should be, for everyone. That's a problem. So you have fellow black creators attacking Eric July. You have these sites not covering what is arguably the biggest news in comic books for 2022, probably in the last how many years, 10, 20 years whatsoever. And nobody is acting like this is supposed to actually be good. You're all just saying that, we're supposed to just sit there, shut up, take it, and be done with it. This is ridiculous, terrible, terrible outcome or something. Eric July's Rippaverse is a chance to breathe some much needed fresh air into a stale, stagnant industry, and everything is being done to try and fight it down. I don't think Bleeding Cool will cover it because Bleeding Cool only likes to cover woke garbage that they can pander to Marvel and DC about. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell. Be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.